This is an original short story from Held Stories, a living archive of quiet human encounters. Here we try to create images of moments that are complete, but not finished. Held Stories, Season 1, Episode 9. She met the man she watched earlier. Previous efforts saw her tiptoe up to the edge of the pool and slide herself in. This time she dove into the pool head first. She bobbed her head above the water and smiled. Another accomplishment down. She began her laps, starting with a butterfly stroke. Challenging herself, she increased the tempo until her arms felt like rubber after a couple of laps. Switching to the backstroke, she gently moved about the lane to regain some strength in her arms. Already, she felt the rush of success having dove straight into the pool. She now knows it is an option to be like Olympic swimmers. It's not a dream for her at 53 years old, but to be able to do it sent shivers down her spine. After a couple of laps of freestyle, Margaret left the pool and headed for the showers. She smiled at people as they passed, thanked the lifeguard, and went to change in the change room. Having finished drying off and dressing, she moved to the cafeteria for a coffee and a snack. Perhaps a muffin this time would do the trick. Blueberry was the order of the day. She hasn't had a blueberry muffin in quite a while. Sipping her coffee and nibbling away at her muffin, she noticed the kids in the water park frolicking about madly. They were chasing each other and driving their parents crazy as though one of them might get hurt. She smiled and looked the other way at the curling rink. The one small window she could see through showed a man on his knee throwing a rock down the ice. Everyone seemed to be in bittersweet spirits today except for the kids. It was almost as though some sort of tournament was in town and the home team wasn't doing so well. Though Margaret knew this was a typical Monday for her city's neighborhood. A fresh start to a new week, and everyone heavily competitive after the weekend. She finished the last bite of her muffin and took her coffee home. Hopping up her stairs, still happy from her excursion to the pool today, Margaret opened the lock and went inside. Her puppy was there waiting for her in his kennel. Fido took the opportunity to spin in circles, so happy to see Margaret. Just 3 months old, he was already quite the trailblazer. No fear when they set out for their walks. He would take the lead, sniffing everything he could and doing his business where he can. This time, they took their walk around the dog park. She wanted Fido to be familiar with this area for when she took him after his puppy training. First things first, Fido had to be responsive to his owner's commands before letting him off leash. Otherwise, he was an amazing animal to other animals, children, and elders. She walked past an ice cream store. Despite it being sub-zero temperatures, she knew Fido would want his sweet treat. She ordered a puppy-sized dog favorite and took Fido around the corner to lick away at it. He always perked up when they went in this direction, wondering if Margaret would buy him one of these treats. Sliding into her favorite sweater back at home, she takes Fido to the shrine in her basement to pay respects to the man who provided for her life. Her husband, gone now 5 years, 3 months, and 6 days. He was an aerospace engineer gone C-suite professional. They won a small lottery to buy their current home and afford a better lifestyle for themselves. This was 6 months before his diagnosis of prostate cancer that finally took him just over a year later. Missing him deeply always broke her stride. She promised him while he was alive she would not slow down once. So she affords this homage as the only time life can humble her because of him. After kissing her finger and placing it on the photo of him placed atop his urn, she returns to her day. This time she locks Fido into the kennel once more as she heads out to buy groceries for the two of them. Their last dog, Arnold, was 15 by the time his hips gave out and he had to be put down due to excruciating pain. It was the second and final sad moment for Margaret after her husband passed on, and she promised herself being alone wasn't an option. Arnold would go everywhere with them, even to the grocery store. The grocer would toss a biscuit at their dog, and he would deftly snatch it from midair. Memories of Arnold were few. Having to put him down was so close. But she knew Fido would make up the calling as a new dog in town. Gathering all the fixings for the next 3 days of meals, Margaret returned home to find Fido asleep in the kennel. Knowing better than to wake him, she put the groceries away and started on some lunch. A Greek salad seemed fitting given her recent trip to the pool. Something healthy with just enough protein to keep her slight figure going. She always worried about the way she looked, though it was only to impress Fido. Picking up the phone, Margaret dialed the dog training center to see if they had an extra spot available for this afternoon. They had 2 and were trying very hard to fill them. She took one and hung up the phone. Smiling at Fido, she said, "Get ready, buddy. Your turn to amaze yourself." Timing was everything for her. She finished her salad and took Fido to the car for the long ride to the training center. Knowing he would sooner jump out the window, she kept the windows closed for the duration of every drive. Especially grateful for this because it was winter and the last thing she wanted was a frozen puppy at their destination. "Hi, Margaret." "Hi, Fido." Ashley bent down and pet the energetic puppy. "Hi, Ash. I hope I'm not late," Margaret said. "Just in time, Margaret. Come this way." Ashley led the pair down a hallway to the training room. It appeared more like a dojo than a puppy training room, complete with imagery of animals in martial arts uniforms adorning the walls. Apparently, this space was shared with the karate club in recent years. The club, having moved on to their own location, left this space open for training. 1 hour of training whipped past for Fido. He was calm and responsive to Margaret's commands without having received many treats to accomplish this feat. They made their way to the checkout to pay for the class when Margaret saw someone out of the corner of her eye. This person appeared as her husband did from the side, but also the curler from this morning kneeling down throwing the rock. She approached gently, with Fido sniffing the aisle, and overheard the man discussing cat treats with a store associate. She afforded quick glances whenever possible to ascertain who this individual was. Not having a clear shot of him at the curling rink, she waited until the associate left to find some stock to show him. "How many cats do you own?" Margaret asked inquisitively. 2, 1 male and 1 female. They get along swimmingly." Margaret giggled. "Funny you should mention that. Was it you I saw at the pool this morning throwing your curling rocks?" The man sighed. "Yes, I'm ashamed to admit. It wasn't my most professional outing. You would think I'd only curled for 3 years with that performance. My friends won't let me live it down." Margaret smiled. "Well, if it's any consolation, I did dive into the pool for the first time this morning. That's an accomplishment. I'm sure you remember being new to curling and having your first rock stick where it should." The man smiled, this time directly at Margaret. "I was 12. The associate returned with 3 bags of different cat treats. The man picked 2 of them to try and thank the associate. She smiled and went about her day. "Would you care to join me for a late-day snack? I know a baker not far from here." "I would love to," Margaret replied, still amazed at how this man resembled her husband from the side. "Is the bakery dog-friendly?" She motioned down at Fido, who was sitting obediently at her side. "I know the owner. Let's see what I can drum up. My name is James." James extended his hand. "Margaret, pleasure to meet you. This is Fido, a name I refuse to justify simply because I enjoy it being solely for dogs." James chuckled. "Fair enough, Margaret. Come this way. I'll pay for these treats and show you the best baking this side of downtown." Margaret took the opportunity to pay for her training class while James paid for the cat treats. She followed him to the bakery and was amazed at the wafts of pleasant scents emanating from the back. She looked at all the amazing treats lined up like small gifts. Each one seemed more ornate than the last. James let her know he'd buy this round as he asked for the manager. The employee smiled and went into the back. When the manager came up front, they shook hands and James inquired as to Fido's presence. The manager tapped his nose and winked at Fido. James thanked him and asked Margaret what she would like. Margaret picked out 2 small round pastries, one in the shape of a strawberry and a second a similar-sized blueberry. James made his selection, and the pair sat down to enjoy their treats. Margaret smiled away, hearing about James's accolades in the curling community, how he has won major championships and compares today's performance to when he was 8. Margaret let out a laugh at that shocking comparison. To go from a championship player to a rookie in a day is surely a performance he would be reminded of often. Margaret explained she was a widow of 5 years or so. She spoke of Arnold and Fido as lifestyle companions. She didn't wait too long to let Arnold go, but she wanted him to live a bit longer as a memory of her husband. Later, she mentioned it was a good thing Arnold left when he did. It allowed Margaret to let go of her husband and move on with life. James perked up at this point in the conversation. And then what happened? This has been Held Stories. Held Stories is maintained as a living archive of created images of moments that are complete but not finished. Editions will be made available as they are prepared for those who wish to retain them and support their preservation. For those interested, please visit www.heldstories.org for more information.